Hello and welcome to this basic tutorial of Unreal Engine. In this video what you can expect to learn is how to move around the camera, how to move objects, how to add objects to your UI, what all the menus mean, just a basic understanding. So if you already have all this, maybe skip to the next video if that is out. So if you've already got the Epic Games launcher, you want to hit Unreal Engine Library and install the latest version of Unreal. Then if we load that up, we're just going to go to a new project, and let's start with the third person template. It's a good place to start. I'm just going to call this UE4 tutorial. Perfect. Alright, we are now inside of Unreal Engine. So to get started, I'm just going to make myself a bit more room. So let me just drag these borders, and I'm going to open this sources panel. It's quite helpful. And we're good to go. So in this menu here, we can already see a real-time preview of our game. If we click into the window, we can select different objects. But if we want to move around, you'll notice the keyboard WASD does nothing until we hold right-click. And that'll give us sort of control of this spectator camera. Now, you can just use WASD to navigate around like you would in a game. But if you want to go one step further, if you hold down Q and E, that'll let you go straight up or down. And so using a combination of those, you can get quite accurate camera moves if you need to get into tight spaces to design your level, really. So what we're going to start off by doing is selecting all these default objects, and we're just going to delete them to get them out of the way so we can place our own objects. So after we've got all that deleted, you'll see it's got some baked lighting left behind. If we just quickly go to build lighting only, we'll get rid of that for us. Perfect. Nice and clean. And if we just click play up here and click into the window, move our mouse around, use WASD, space to jump, we've got a nice sort of playing field to start developing in. Great. So let's get to how we move and place objects. So on the left here, we've got some basic elements we can put into our level. Often we'll be working out of this bottom window here because this is where we can get custom content in. So once we've got our own models, textures, things like that, we might, for example, add a new folder here. And let's just call that custom content. And in here we might have all sorts of different models that we just drag straight into the scene. But for now, on the left here, let's just start with something like a cube, and let's just drag that straight in. Maybe let's get a cylinder as well. And let's get a cone too. Now you'll see they spawn into the ground, and that's because their center of the object is halfway through it. So if we want to fix that, on this little gizmo here, these are the different axes. If you've used any other 3D programs, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can drag the arrows individually, or you can drag these connections between them, so that if, for example, it was on the ground, we can drag these two, and it'll be anywhere on the X and Y axis. And this would probably be the Z and Y axis. Sorry, Z and X axes, my bad. So if we want to get these quickly onto the ground, what we can actually do is select them, drag them up above the ground and hit end on our keyboard, and that'll snap it to the closest surface underneath it. Cool, so let's just hit play. And now we can see these objects are successfully in the level. We can get up on top of them, jump between them. They're working quite nicely. Let me actually add another sphere as well. Now let's say we wanted to rotate this cylinder to be on the side. So if we hit E on our keyboard or click up here to select and rotate, we can put it on the side like that. Make sure it's sitting on the ground. And while we're at it, let's go to our details panel on the bottom right here. Make sure you're not accidentally in the world settings. Let's go to details. Scroll down and hit Simulate Physics. And now if we come into the level and try and approach it, to try and kick it, we can see it now rolls, which is quite cool. And we didn't really have to do anything for that except for hit a check button, which is awesome. Cool, let's go one step further and select this, and let's scale it down a bit. So now if we hit R on our keyboard or click up here, select and scale objects. And again, you can hover over any of these if you forget the key binding. So we've got W for move, E for rotate, and R for scale. They're all close by on the keyboard. It's pretty easy to remember. Once again, we can drag these individual little handles here. But for scale, if we go into the center, it'll do all of the different axes at once, which is usually what we want for scale. Unless we're doing something like, if we put this on the side, put on the ground, and maybe we want a really long cylinder like that. That might be what we're looking for. And let's try and roll that. Now you see, because this object is quite big, the mass has been affected as well here. So let's just adjust that too for now. So if we hit an override for the mass, and let's make it something ridiculous like 10 kilos for this massive piece. So if we now come in, we can see it sort of gets kicked around like it was made of paper or something. So really quite light. Cool. So now we know how to manipulate objects. So if you wanted, you could already start making something like, kind of jumping puzzle type thing. So if we make this platform bigger, let's actually try and add a new one. But instead of adding another cube and going to resize it as well, we can use a handy tool by grabbing this object, and instead of just dragging it out, hold Alt on your keyboard and drag it out, and it'll get an exact duplicate. Now that works for pretty much anything. So let's say we wanted this character to get a duplicate. That's really helpful for level design. Let's say making a fence. Instead of just making it individually, you could make 2 planks of a fence, select them both by hitting Control, and then you can duplicate that, and then grab these 4 and duplicate that again. It just sort of goes exponentially. So for now, let's just adjust this slightly and make a couple steps, and let's grab another one like this. Perfect. And let's hit play. Now we can see if we can jump between these without too much hassle. And already you've almost got a game for yourself.